Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of ADHD Crochet, and also Turtle Mania is continuing. So, as we said last time, we are going to work on pretty much just the shell this time. Probably mostly just getting the shell itself put together. We'll see if I can get it actually attached to the turtle this time. But we are going to go ahead and get started here. As you can see, I have quite a few spots here. I do have them mostly pinned down, but they may change. My husband just brought in a scorpion from outside. One of the few cool things of working in or living in Arizona. This is the third living scorpion I've seen in the entire time I've lived here. I don't know exactly where he found him, but he brought him to me in a cup. A very unhappy little scorpion, as you might imagine. They're not necessarily happy creatures, especially not when you find them, but they are pretty easy to not be stung by. As long as you are not a dumb cat. I think cats have some sort of resistance to them, thankfully, because I've definitely watched my cat play with one before realizing what it was. It was also at night, and I was trying to figure out what it was doing. With this section here, we are just going to sew the parts onto our thing here. Some of my stitches did not go as tight as I wanted them to, so I'm just going to go back here and tighten them up. One stitch at a time until we get to our current yarn. The nice part about working with this rainbow yarn opposed to the other rainbow yarn is that this rainbow yarn is less likely to pull apart. It's actually very difficult to rip this one apart. Unlike the other one that we used on the pink turtle, the pink and rainbow turtle. Still love that yarn. It is very soft and very pretty. It is just a little bit inconvenient to sew with. That's okay. Alright, so we've got our first tile attached. It's definitely not going anywhere. So let's go ahead and make our little knot here. We're going to make it in an existing stitch, just to kind of help hide it a little bit better. And we're actually going to hide it inside of itself here, just because if I just pull it to the back here, it's probably going to be seen a little bit. So we'll hide it inside of itself, snip, snip, and move on to the next one. Now I am going to adjust the positions of these tiles throughout the working, so this is going to take a little while because I've got to make sure that everything is evenly spaced and not getting pinned to the bottom thing here. But I do want to make sure everything has enough black yarn around it that it really shows like stained glass. I want just a little bit, I want that little bit there, so I want a little bit less over here. So I'm just gonna just where that's at. That looks about even. I'm gonna find this one's string and we're gonna work with this one. So, because I'm going to be adjusting and readjusting everything as we go along here, this is probably going to take a little while. So be prepared for a part 3 of Stained Glass Turtle in Turtle Mania. So let's go. So again, I just want to make sure that I have nice and tight stitches here. This helps hold the shape and helps make sure that it's definitely not going anywhere. this pin because I don't need it anymore. My pin box is probably going to fill up very slowly as we go along here, since I will be returning all of these pins that are stuck in the shell back to the box here, one part at a time. Now again, this was supposed to have a ring of parts to sew on, about 14 or 15 of them. It did specify that it could vary between 14 and 15 being needed. Honestly, I think maybe even 13, but we'll get to that when we get to the turtle that actually has those additional parts to it, where I followed the pattern pretty much exactly for the sewing option. But this one is going to take a little less time because I did not do those on this one, because I did have this border already of the rainbow yarn that I did not have on the other one. I did not make a separate colored border on the shell itself. So I did make those 14 or 15 parts for it. Keep it all together. That is another part done. We're just gonna make our little knot here in an existing stitch. And once again, hide it inside of itself, so right between it and the shell. Pull it through and snip, snip. These are supposed to be like little hexagons down there, and these are supposed to be pentagons. These look like seeds to me. I think this one's placement is fine, so we'll just go ahead and continue with it. I'm probably just going to go from top to bottom here and work on these three, and then this one probably, and then these ones, adjusting so that it matches where this one's placement and shaping is. As I sew these down, they're probably going to get a better shape to them, a more rigid shape to them. So it'll be a little easier to tell what shape they're supposed to be. But right now they are just kind of rounded blobs because crocheting tight corners is kind of difficult. Possible. It is possible to do it, but it is not easy. The other thing I have to pay attention to on this is the spacing, because there is such a contrast between the tile and the background of the shell. So getting that spacing right is crucial. And everything is on a round shell as well. My stitches do have to be a little bit precise, and I do want them to be tight, but it does not try to lift or go anywhere. It looks fully attached to this shell here. Now I probably don't need to keep this the background that I'm working on here, but I'm going to anyways. I kind of like working on it. Easier on my arms. It is quite warm. So I might move my ice pack under here But my ice pack has been keeping my phone nice and cool. As this is the third hour that I'm in here for. Will be the final hour of today that I'm in here because it is getting later in the day than I would like to be in here because it gets way too warm in here. And I do still gotta edit and upload the videos and such. One more stitch just to bring it to the front here. We're gonna make our little knot, which this time actually happens to be the same color as we started with, very close to it. Close enough that you're not gonna notice, which is nice. I like when that happens. And then of course we're gonna hide our yarn here. And the tile itself. Snip, snip. And we are 3 down, several to go. Alright. For this one, I want a little more space, I think. I have room to stitch it together, so we're gonna bring it down just a tad. We're gonna reposition this one just a tad as well. It is a little more angled towards that in between, and I pinned it to the back here. Oops. There we go. Made it to a string. Oh, oops. Third time's the charm, right? Alright. This one I am going to reposition as well, just a little bit. That way when I'm done with this one right here, I can see if I really like where those other ones are. And I will have to reposition the one directly below it as well. I can do that. Right, just a little bit further down. I'm gonna have to bring everything just a little bit further down, looks like. Just so that I have enough of a border between each piece. And also so I have room to sew each piece so they're not in each other's way. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with this one. I absolutely accidentally pinned things I did not want to pin. Everything where I want it to be. Yes, the corners are there. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and get that first stitch going. Once we get that first one going, everything else gets a little easier. I think my coffee rush has finally slowed down. Yes, I'm still working on that bit of coffee. Now this is supposed to be a corner, so we are going to bring it out just a little bit. And then bring this in just a little bit. Now this one, I kind of want the corner to stretch a little bit more, so I'm going to do it a little further out than the others. I want it to be a little more clear what shape this is supposed to be. Now this next one, pretty close to it. This one, again, pretty close to it. Keep going in between the yarn. Now this one, we're going to do it really close here in this little corner space here. Really close to the other ones, that is, not close to itself. I'm going to tighten that so that it stretches a little bit. And we're just going to continue really close to itself. This just kind of helps stretch the shape into the position that I want it to be in, so that it holds better. Again, close to this little center of the other two shapes there. Pull it nice and tight so it makes that sharper corner for me. And then we're going to do close to itself here. And try not to go in the center of the yarn. Again, close to itself on this one. And then pretty far out for this one. It is another point that I want to be rather obvious. There we go. It no longer needs that pin, so we're going to get rid of that real quick. And then the next one, pretty close to itself. Now this one I am going to go just a little bit out. Is kind of that bottom corner there. I'm just going to do a little extra stitch so that it keeps everything nice and tight. We're done with our hexagon, not pentagon, or hexagon there. And we are going to make our little knot. And then hide our yarn. I'm going to do this in a way that kind of avoids that big hole there. I don't mind that the hole is there. I just want to hide the yarn. Snip, snip. And now we mess with the other. All right. Let's see. It is a little off. This one's a little further from this than I would like, so I probably should have shifted it more, but that's okay. This one's probably fine where it's at. I think that's fine. This one can come back up a little bit, I think. This I want to turn slightly, but otherwise I think it's fine. I might turn this a little more, actually. So these are supposed to be pentagons. They look like sunflower seeds to me. And I accidentally pinned it to itself. And it's part of this knot. Get you to detach there. Beautiful. Again, we want the pointing between these two. We want these edges to be pretty straight against each other. These corners are going to be real close, but it's okay. All right. I'm going to start a little bit further away from it with a nice tight stitch there, and then a little closer to the actual tile as we go up these here. Go a little further out to get a corner here, because this is supposed to be a corner. A little further in. And then a little bit further out, get a sharp corner there. And then further in towards the tile there. We are not even halfway through the tiles and we're almost halfway through the video. So this is going to be a little bit of work, and that's okay. So here I'm just trying to make sure that I am leaving as much of that black between them as I can. It's not easy, but it is okay. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to go under and then out a little bit for this one. Doing our stitching a little differently. On that little corner there, and then back to regular over here as we finish up our last little tile here, or not last tile, but finish up this tile with its last stitches. And we've made it back to the beginning of the tile. We're going to go ahead and make our little knot. Hide the string. There we go. Hide the string. And snip, snip. We're going to go over to this tile next. Kind of try to make sure it's in as close to the same configuration as the other one as possible. And then attach our needle here. Alright. So again, I want this point to be like right in here. I want it to be pretty close. So we're going to start out pretty far from the tile, just to try and make that point as sharp as possible. And then we're going to just go back to being pretty close to these. Work our way down to the next corner. Hit my microphone, sorry. And then we're going to go pretty close to this other tile to grab that corner and make it a nice and tight corner. Go back inside very quickly here, so we can keep as much of that spacing as we can. And then we have another corner, so we're going to grab a little bit further away from the tile, pull it nice and tight, and then just follow that top ridge. This definitely has a little more of a stained glass framed vibe, like stained glass window vibe, I think, especially with the black framing each individual piece a little bit more, more sharply than on the stained glass Nautilus. But I love the striping so much on the Nautilus. And the Nautilus is softer. I used a different and slightly better yarn. So naturally that's going to have an effect on it. But think I might do a snail or sea slug next because I do again have so much of this rainbow yarn. But if I am going to use a black yarn again, I'm gonna have to go get more because I don't have that much left. Alright, so we're going to grab a little bit further away from the tile, make our corner here. And then back close to the tile. Now it is pretty easy to see the stitches on this. That's okay. Kind of adds to the stained glass appeal, I think. Oops, that was meant to be my knot. Hide our string and snip snip. Alright, so once more we need to adjust where this is just a little bit. Mostly just turning it ever so slightly. That's good. This one needs to go out a little bit. With my coffee. Alright, so we are pretty much at the very center of the shell. Yeah, there we go. So we kind of start with a little bit of a corner. We're going to go right into here, I think. Alright, this is a little bit of a corner, so we are going to reach out a little bit. Came off my needle. And then come back in. And then go out a fair amount for this one. That is the point, longer point. You want that to be pretty predominant. And right in there, and now at this point we can get rid of our pin. We don't need that anymore. Got rid of it on the other one, right? Yeah, I did. And then we're still pretty close to the tile here on this one, but the next one we're going to go right up in here. Try and pull that sharper corner so it shows a little bit more. Gotta find the best spot for for my stitches. Snickers is purring. There's a very happy old lady right over there. I don't know that you can hear her, you probably can't, but she is purring. She has a weird purr. She sounds like she's hyperventilating when she purrs. It's kind of funny. But she's very comfy on the corner of the table. So, like, good for her, I guess. Alright, we are back at the beginning, so we'll go ahead and make our little knot here. To hide our string. And snip, snip. Now we can work on these. I'm going to make sure everything's where I want it to be, or as close to where I want it to be as possible. I think this can be a little bit closer. Just a smidge there. Let's see, what's this other one looking like? I think that one's a little too close. We're going to move it down. Just a wee bit. Check that everything is still working, because again, this is the third hour of me doing this right now, so I'm kind of expecting technical difficulties to occur relatively soon. But so far, I have had none, which is great. And we are about to reach a corner, so we're going to go right here, a little bit further out, because it's not that sharp of a corner. It's not really supposed to be that sharp of a corner, but it is a corner nonetheless. So we're going to make it just a little bit sharper here. Get rid of our pin, because I don't think we need it really. And look through. Through. We're going to pull this out just a little bit. There's a corner that I want to be a little sharper. And then we will just work along the edge here. Again, I do kind of want this to work with the curve of the shell, and the shell is rounded, not square. So these are not going to be super sharp edges or corners. They are not supposed to be. then this corner is going to be a little sharper. I want it to be a little more obvious that it is a corner. There we go. Oh no! I just yanked that off. That's fine. We'll reposition it anyways. Alright, and then a little bit closer to the edge of the first tile here. And out a little bit further. And then back in a little bit. And we've made it back to the top here. Go ahead and make our little knot. And hide our string. There we go. Snip. Alright. So we'll go on to this one. Make sure it is where I want it to be. It's good enough at least. I go out, so it wants to be a nice sharp point. Very sharper point, at least. And then go through here. We're cutting it a little close with this corner. Okay. Really careful going in so that we don't just attach it to the tile next to it. Have to go right back into that stitch there. Alright, and then we come to this corner, so we're going to bring it out. Get it nice and tight there. And we will just keep going around this edge here, keeping the stitches pretty close to the tile, of course. Except for this one, we're going to bring it out a little bit more because it is a corner. There we go. These are going to have to be repositioned, but that's okay. That's why everything's only pinned, not glued. You could use fabric glue. I don't recommend it. Especially on a project like this where you're gonna have to readjust as you go along here. We have reached the end here. We're going to go ahead and make our little knot. Hook it under. And snip, snip. All right. All right. I'm going to remove these bottom pieces here because they are a little bit in the way and I can just readjust them momentarily. It's not like I'm going to forget where they're supposed to be. We're going to readjust this one just a little bit up and over. I'm also tired of my string getting stuck on everything. And once again, we do start on a little bit of a corner here. I'm going to go out just a wee bit. Start. And then we come back in for the edge. We've got our corner. We want to be nice and sharp. And then our smaller edge here. And then we've got our point. So we're going to bring it out just a little further. Make that nice and tight. Keep working along the edge. And we have come to another corner. So I'm going to pull it up just a little bit, not that far, just a little bit further. Make that corner a little sharper. Don't need my pen anymore. And continue working along this edge to the other corner. Again, this corner I want it to be a little bit further away so it's a little bit sharper. But we do want to keep that black edge between each stitch, each tile. And we are coming to our sharper point again here. We're going to poke a little bit further out. Pull it nice and tight. And that brings us to our beginning once more. Little knot. Hide our string. And snip, snip. We will probably go ahead and call it done once we get these last 3 tiles put on. I have some things I need to do, and it is getting toasty in here. So it is going to be a little bit shorter than the other videos were, for my own sake. Your health always comes first because you won't be able to do much else if you don't have health. Think of it like a video game if you must, but always take care of yourself. Don't poke yourself either. That's not good for your health. Alright, so we have these last tiles in place where I think I want them. And we're going to start with this one here, I think. A little bit sharper corner here. Right into that little in-between there. And then we're going to go over here and just kind of keep it close to that edge. And this is a little bit of a corner as well, so we're going to make sure that's a little sharper. I'm sorry, Snickers, being moved that off the table. You're going to have to stick with just the table for now. Tried to get on the pillow, but Bean has for some reason pushed the pillows and laid between the pillows. She's kind of weird, so I don't know what's going on there. But the pillow is now on top of Yarnaby's head. It's not very stable or safe, so Snickers tried to get on it and failed. Not sure if the camera caught that or not, but I'm narrating now. Okay, Snickers, you are the loudest at cleaning yourself. Please don't. I don't have the patience for you. Have that thing where noises bother you a lot more than they should. I can never remember what it's called. Feel free to put that in the comments, what it's called. But my cat's cleaning themselves for 20 minutes, especially Snickers, who has long fur, so she gets very into it and very loud about it. And it just drives me up a wall. Like, great, you are comfortable with me and all that. That's somewhere else. Alright, we've made it to our beginning stitch here. So we're going to make our little knot. Every time Bean moves, it moves my heart, or my mug, and it gives me a little heart attack. Alright, now we're going to do this little center one. I think it is still good where it's at, so just grab the string here. One of the most satisfying things about something as messy as this, as it starts in the beginning, is there's strings everywhere, and it's a mess, and you're slowly removing the chaos of those strings. And it's quite satisfying. You're not nearly as bad as Snickers, but you're still right in front of me. I hear you and it bothers me. What just happened? I'm so confused. I grabbed the wrong string. I did. I started sewing with into the wrong thing. I was not paying attention because I keep getting distracted by trying to keep my sanity. Okay, let's try that again. Doing this one. And up here for the corner. Ouch. Hooking myself on accident. Don't do that. Accidentally grabbed the string, but it's fine. At least I didn't stitch into the wrong one. All right. So it looks like we are actually going to be right on time here. It's not actually going to be that much shorter because I just looked at how much time we've been going for. It's been 50 minutes at this point, or a little more than 50 minutes. I usually try to go to 55 and such. So we are pretty much right on the money with this. So we will have to finish the stained glass turtle next time, in which we actually attach the shell to the body of the turtle. We are just going to finish these because I am getting toasty and need to stop. And also, I have now 3 videos at this time that are just kind of sitting on my camera and phone that need to be taken care of. And I should cool down a little before we do our D&D session that we're going to do. We're starting a new campaign today. We did our session 0 where we made our characters and decided the story a little bit, the bare bones of everything yesterday, which was quite fun. I always like making new characters. But we are nearly there. This is the last tile, and then we will be done for the day, for this week. So we are a little bit out of room because I did want as much of that background to kind of come through as possible, so it gives it more of that stained glass look, but I still want it to be the turtle pattern, the turtle shell pattern. So I did the maximum number of parts that I could and still achieve what I wanted, for sure. Which is pretty much the bare minimum of having a turtle shell pattern. I could probably get away with doing like a bunch of hexagons or pentagons of a specific size to get a turtle shell pattern of sorts, but it is not a very realistic turtle shell pattern. A bunch of hexagons or pentagons put together. So I do kind of like this one because I've got trapezoids, I've got pentagons and hexagons. It's kind of fun. The outer ridge pieces were supposed to be little rectangles, which I would of course end up rounding with the stitching to match the curvature of the shell a little better. But we will see that in the smallest and most complicated turtle we have. So Turtle Mania is going to last a little while. It may very well last into September. So if you don't like turtles, I'm sorry. I just really enjoyed making this pattern. If you get tired of seeing turtles, I totally get it, and I'm sorry. But it is going to happen for a couple more weeks, it seems. More than anticipated initially. But hey, content is content. And we have made it to our final last stitch of the shell main tiles, whatever. We are making our little knot, hiding our little string. Snip, snip. And that will do it for today. So next time we are going to connect these. So it is going to go on right here, just like this. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it in place now. Everything got ever so slightly off center, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. We've got that. We'll go ahead and pin the bottom on as well, because they are going to be attached anyway. So once again, attaching this here. So that is the center of the tail. This is the center of the head neck area. And then next time we will connect everything and finish up this turtle and then start on the other turtle. But until then, if you liked the video, please go ahead and like that video, or like this video. I will have the credit to the ones who actually made this Megan Lapp Crafty Intentions in the description, and if you would like to continue getting this content, go ahead and subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.